I'm your host, Raiden Dionisio. Today, I have a very special guest with us. He is a Marine veteran. He's also the owner and founder of Burn Pit Barbecue. I have none other than Gregory Fisher, or Greg Fisher, sorry. Um, Greg, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
Good, good. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I'm humbled to be here and part of your podcast. I've been listening to a few of them, so really excited to be here. And thanks for all you're doing, bringing awareness to some of the things that veterans and also some service members are doing now. So, but yeah, as you mentioned, I kind of within the past few months, I've left the corporate world and ventured into entrepreneurship and am doing my own thing and started to build a barbecue brand company, Burn Pit BBQ. A little veteran humor there with the Burn Pit. Um, some might not find it funny, but some might. So that's kind of what you get from a Marine grunt.
As long as he gets people talking, though, man.
Yeah, right,
Because
right.
I'm definitely interested. Burn Pit Barbecue. Let me.
Yeah.
What is that about? So, just kind of backtrack a little. Can you just tell us a little bit about your service, the time frame you served, and things like that, and when you got out?
Yeah, for sure. So I served, as you mentioned, the Marine Corps from 2002 to 2006. So you could say maybe I was a product of September 11th. Um, I was a senior in high school when that happened, and it really helped make up my mind what I was going to do after high school. So, as we were getting into the thick of things in Afghanistan, I was in, boot camp, and eventually, after going to infantry school in San Diego, I was assigned to 1st Battalion, 7th Marines,
Hmm.
and they were already in Kuwait staged as things started heating up a little bit more with Saddam and his regime. So me and probably about a handful of others that got assigned to 1-7 met up with the battalion in Kuwait in country already. So I was with 1-7 through the push to Baghdad. We settled back down in the city of Najaf after the war was declared over for 5-6 months, and then I did two more deployments after that. Um, Both of those deployments were to the Anbar province in Al Qaim, Iraq, kind of a hot spot for people crossing over the border into Syria, from Syria into Iraq, through the Euphrates River there.
Hmm.
So I spent my second two combat deployments over there.
And then you got out. Was it 2006 or 2007?
Yeah, I got out in 2006. Three combat deployments in 3 years will kind of take a toll on you, and
Yeah, definitely.
and kind of was a little bit lucky sometimes. So I figured that I wasn't going to press my luck anymore.
Yeah, most definitely. So, did 4 years, did three combat deployments in those 4 years. What would you say was your biggest takeaway from being in the Marine Corps or in the military in general?
Um, well, I mean, my biggest takeaway was that you can plan and you can train as much as you want, but really when things start to hit the fan, it's your instincts that take over. Um, Having good leadership, having the ability to adapt and be agile to the situation is key. And I think for the most part, most Marines, and as well as anybody that's ever served in the military, has that instilled within them.
Hmm.
That no matter how well you plan, things are probably going to go wrong, especially in the combat environment. And being able to rely on each other, and folks stepping up to the plate when it's called upon. I think those are all keys and things that I've learned, and that also suit us well in life after the military.
Yeah, and I think the term that comes to mind, especially with me as a corpsman being with the Marine Corps, is being semper gumby, right? Yeah,
Right.
they
Yeah.
always tell you stay semper gumby and be flexible and be fluid
Yeah.
because things,
Absolutely.
like you said, plans we can plan all day, but once you get out there, that just goes out the window,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so a great point on that. So you got out. How was your transition from from the military to the civilian world?
Yeah, my transition was probably better than most, I'd say. They say that when, especially for enlisted folks or there are people that are active duty, you lose your house, you lose your job, you lose your friends all in the same day. So when you transition, a lot falls on you. And when I came back home to Wisconsin here, I had a pretty strong support system to fall back on. I had a fiance that was with me for all of my deployments. She knew what had happened, so she was obviously great. I still have family back here, so they're all great support, providing me resources, ideas, thoughts, and just keeping me on my feet as I kind of tried to figure out what I wanted to do next.
Mhm.
So I would say my transition was probably better than most, from what I understand.
And that's great to hear, man. And some of the things that you wrote down here, it's just good to hear that it's not always once you have that support system, once you have people that actually love you, there to support you, you can do anything, and you're living proof of that.
Right.
Because it's not always you always hear the stories where you know guys in our community, they always struggle once they
Mm.
get out. um, what would you say, other than the support system, has been key for you?
Well, one thing I forgot to mention, but what was huge for me is I was really motivated to go back to school, use my GI Bill. And I played sports growing up in high school, and did have the opportunity to I was thankful that a few colleges were looking at me before the Marine Corps. And I kept in touch with some of those coaches. And when I came back, I had the opportunity to walk on to a D2 Division two men's soccer program. And one thing that was really key for me was kind of finding my new tribe. So, we have a strong sense of brotherhood in the Marines, a tie that can't be broken. And it was important for me, and I think it's important for others that are transitioning to find that outside of the military.
Mm.
So I'll say, the men that I played soccer with in college kind of became my new unit, right? So, we obviously went through the college experience together. I had a group of men that I could relate to, that we had struggles on and off the field. So again, it kind of it helped to have that, especially when go through 4 years in the military of having that every day. I know once you get out, that's something a lot of Marines and people I talk with miss, is that brotherhood. So having that new tribe really helped me in my transition.
Mm. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, that's talk to other veterans and people who've transitioned. I think that's key, is like you said, finding that new tribe, because we all want a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. Um, because you lose that once you get out. You have, you try to find something that you're passionate about, or that you think you can belong to. Like, everybody wants to find that next mission, and
Right.
sometimes we're just left with, well, what's next?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I owe a lot to those coaches that I kept in touch with, right? So I hadn't played soccer in 4 years.
yeah,
My body was broken down from three combat deployments, but they gave me a shot, and they let me walk on and redshirt to get kind of up to speed. So I owe a lot to those people that kind of were there to assist me in those first few years after I got out.
yeah. And another great point you said there, for those of you guys listening, I'm talking to Greg Fisher, the owner founder of Burn Pit Barbecue. Um, so Greg, another point that I wanted to bring up that you said there was you stay connected to that other tribe.
Mm.
You didn't lose contact, right? Um, so I guess, has there been anything since you've left the service and you found this next service, like second service, what I like to say?
Mm.
Is there anything that the military helped you prepare for, when you went into this entrepreneurship journey?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you hear a lot of the other kind of famous, more famous than me veterans out there, like the Jocko Willings and David Goggins, of taking ownership of your journey, taking ownership of you know those aspects in your life. So I came to a point after spending 10 years in the corporate environment of kind of reflecting back on everything that I had accomplished and looking forward, and really it came down to was is taking more ownership of my life and having the ability to build something outside of working for an organization. And the military does a great job of that. We are kind of responsible for ourselves but also as a whole. So I think my time in the military definitely prepared me to be an entrepreneur. We talked about it a little already. It was being adaptable, being agile,
Mhm.
not letting those setbacks really crush you, but continue to persevere, and really take ownership of your future. So yeah, anybody coming out or anybody that served in the military definitely has all those characteristics. And for me, it took me about 10 years of actually working for somebody else before I took the leap,
Yeah.
and had that kind of intestinal fortitude to go out on my own.
And I mean, like 4 years and three combat deployments in 4 years, I mean, that'll like just toughen you up, man.
Well, yeah, it breaks you down first, and then you
Yeah.
kind then sometimes you miss those days.
Yeah. So let's get into this, the Burn Pit Barbecue. How did you come about with this brand, this idea? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I'm an avid barbecuer. Some people, turn to fitness. Some turn to paintball kind of to help with maybe some coping of, some of the, post-traumatic stress, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, barbecue's my jam.
Nice.
So I've been doing that for like a decade, and I've been dabbling in e-commerce a little bit, doing some things on the side as I was still in a corporate position. And it came to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm never going to go full in on this unless I cut my ties with my corporate job, and that's really what set me off. And the Burn Pit name actually came from another veteran I know, and he really helped me out. He's a great guy that helped me get started too. So, but no, he was another veteran. He's like, hey, why don't you call it Burn Pit? Because
Yeah.
we're just like both veterans, and he's like that'd be a great name. So I loved it and I went with it. Um, so right now our goal is just to really provide content, tools and resources for grillers and barbecuers that might just be starting out their journey
Mhm.
in that world. So we started the website about 2 months ago, and we were putting like blog posts up about recipes, tips, how to get started. And then we also launched our first all natural barbecue rubs and spices a few weeks ago, actually. So we're dabbling in that piece. And we're excited about this journey that's going forward, that we don't know exactly where it's going to take us, but we're going to buckle up and get ready for the ride.
That's awesome, man. Is it just you, or are you working with a team, a partner with
Yeah.
this, or?
So I do have a partner,
Okay.
and it is one of those guys, Ben Kruppel, who I met, part of my second tribe at college. So
Mhm.
on the men's soccer team there, one of the guys that I'd go to battle with any day. We kind of hit it off, and we've been friends ever since. And he's been kind of my go-to guy for barbecue stuff as well. So we decided that we're gonna try this thing together.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, going through this journey of building this brand and this Burn Pit Barbecue, what would you say has been like the most trying or the most difficult moments you've had so far with your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, I mean, aside from no guaranteed paychecks anymore, which I kind of knew and planned for ahead of time. So
Yeah.
part of my military background and being prepared. This wasn't just kind of a go ahead and do it. I had done quite a bit of planning ahead of time to make sure that my family. I have a wife and three young kids, that we would be set for a while at least. But the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway is that you know there's uh, there's a lot of ups and downs, and not to let those downs get you to too down.
Mhm.
Trying to maintain kind of a calmness and evenness in our business model and in our approach to the business, knowing that we're going to have these peaks and valleys, and just making sure that sometimes we celebrate success, but at the same time that we don't get too down on ourselves if we have a bad day.
And so you mentioned you say you just started this year with this, or
Yeah, so this brand, the Burn Pit Barbecue, we started that brand this year. Yep.
okay. Um, so talked about the most difficult and trying times. What's been the most rewarding so far you've had?
hmm Well, I think the most rewarding for us was that when we actually had our physical product in hand. When you are starting to develop a product, starting with an idea and then you know going all the way to actually having that product made, and you physically holding that product in your hand, that's probably been our biggest win. Um, and when I say physical product, I think about the barbecue rubs that we have and the
Mhm.
seasonings. So that's probably been our biggest accomplishment to date would be bringing that idea and then bringing it all the way to life.
Yeah, and definitely seeing it come to fruition or seeing it like physically, like you said, just holding it and like all that work that you put in, and you have it right there with you, and it's just on you to get it out there to the world, right?
Yeah, I feel so good. Man,
Yeah.
it feels so good.
Yeah, most definitely. So are you guys like in stores? Like tell us a little more like where they can find more on about Burn Pit Barbecue.
Yeah, we're right now almost exclusively just on e-commerce. So our website we're
Okay.
selling. So that's burnpitbbq.com. We are here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are in one local store, Frontline Defender. They're at a local mall here. They sell a lot of veteran-owned frontline responder type of gear and apparel and stuff. And we were fortunate
Yeah.
enough to get in there. Um, and then we also do like local shows like craft fairs and artisan fairs, that type of stuff to get the name and the brand out there.
That's awesome, man. That's a big accomplishment getting to your first store, because I know there'll be many to come. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's difficult in itself, right? Like you have to make a pitch and kind of like, hey, tell them, hey, how much how much it's worth to put this on the store.
Yeah, and I can't take all the credit for that. With everything in life, man, I've had a lot of support along the way, and a lot of people that have been in my corner helping me out. So I take a partial credit for that, but one of my buddies actually hooked me up with that store, so I have to give him a lot of credit as well.
That's awesome, man. And it's you just have those connections, right? You just keep those connections.
Well, that's part of the transition too out of the military. Is I think people don't focus enough on building connections outside of the military,
Yeah,
and continuing to do that throughout your entire career.
most definitely. So, Greg, can you give our audience one actionable step that they can take right now in pursuit of their second service?
Man, I forgot what I wrote down. what uh,
You
what
said
was it?
you said take time to create a vision.
Ah, yes, thanks. So and I apologize for that, but I created a vision board for myself earlier on this year,
Hmm.
and it had a lot of different details, different aspects of my life. So if you look at all the things that you're doing in your life and things that you want to make an impact on, I really encourage people to sit down and take time to write those down and put a vision board together of like photos of words that stick out to you. As I went throughout this year, I had that sitting up in my bedroom, and I'd look at it every night before I went to bed and every morning when I woke up. And just subconsciously, those things stick into your brain and your mind, and slowly but surely, things were I was able to check things off,
Hmm.
and I was accomplishing things a lot faster
Yeah,
than I would, in the past, where maybe I'd create some goals or things like that, and not necessarily have a vision for it. So that'd be my biggest kind of recommendation for folks that are looking to make an improvement in an area, or just enhancing a strength or something like that, put a vision to it, look at it every day,
Mhm.
because it really drives into the subconscious.
Man, I love that you brought that because I actually had created my vision board earlier this year as well.
Yeah.
Um, and it's great. It's fun to create it and actually see the what you want to do or what you want to accomplish or what you have accomplished, right?
Hmm.
And I also have it in my bed in our bedroom as well by the door. That way, first thing I see is right there. It's my
Yeah.
vision board before I leave for work. Um, and I think that's important, man, because without direction, without a vision, where are you going?
Yeah, and I say, man, it's like as soon as I did that, like I had those were year-long goals. I was hitting
Right,
goals that I had for the entire year in 3 months.
right.
So I'd scratch it off and I'd bump it up if it was something that could be bumped up, or I'd write something else in there. So I was really happy with the progress I was able to make just by having that visual there for me.
That's awesome. Um, so Greg, closing down this first segment of the show here, what's one thing you want our audience to take away from this episode?
Yeah, yeah. I think the biggest thing that I'd love to see more vets or anybody listening to this podcast is don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. One of my favorite sayings is I'm always living at the edge of my comfort and competence zone. So that means I'm always pushing myself. I'm always trying to find new things to improve on. Always trying new things. So I think sometimes we get stuck in habits and routines, and we forget to push ourselves.
Hmm.
And anybody that's been through a military boot camp or training knows that those instructors are pushing you to your limits every day. And once we get out and we get kind of out of that routine, we forget how much we can accomplish and how much we can um, really continue to develop if we only did that for ourselves. So I really hope that people can start looking at things that way a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great. Another great point. I mean, if you're comfortable, you're not growing.
Right.
You
Right.
got to feel feel uncomfortable to continue to grow because you don't grow from being comfortable.
Right. And life's all about growth.
Yeah, most definitely. Again, guys, if you're listening to this, talking to Greg Fisher, he's the founder and owner of Burn Pit Barbecue. So, Greg, coming up to the last segment of the show here, this is what I call the Fast Five, where I ask
Yeah.
5 questions, the same 5 questions I ask my guests.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, first question: what's one hobby you enjoy?
Man, I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the past 2 years, and I absolutely love it.
Awesome. If you had to choose one person, dead or living, to hang out with for one day, who it would be and why?
Yeah, for this one, I would, yeah, I'd probably go and pick my grandfather on my mother's side. He passed away on my third deployment. All of a sudden, was something that wasn't, you know, couldn't have planned for.
Yeah.
And he was a big supporter of my military service. So I'd love to go back and pick his brain a little bit more and get some more time with him.
Mm. And that was, you said, your third deployment?
Yeah, during my third deployment. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so next question, recommend a book for our audience to read.
Yeah, one that I love and I probably reread once a year, and I've been doing it for almost a decade now, is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. It just gives some great tips on how to network, how to build your connections, and really how to look at helping others as well. So that's something that's I would highly recommend that book.
Never Eat Alone by
Yeah,
Keith Ferrazzi.
yeah.
All right. Um, Next question, what's your favorite quote and why?
Oh man, I think I maybe already gave it. I'm always living life at the edge of my comfort and competence zone. And again, that's just because I'm always pushing myself. And driving to improve in areas that I either want to improve in or know I have a deficiency in. So um, that's probably one of my favorite ones.
It's awesome. I love that. I haven't really heard that, but that's a great quote. Um, and then lastly, where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, or even 10 years from now?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing, hopefully I can continue be my own boss and can continue on this entrepreneurship journey. But really, ultimately, it comes down to, being a good husband, being a good father, having those opportunity while my kids are still young to see them, learn and grow in the sports and all that kind of stuff, and just being here for them. But hopefully I'll have a successful business and continue to be healthy and give back to the military and veteran community as much as I can.
It's awesome, man. Greg, I want to thank you again for your time. Um, I appreciate you, and just best of luck to your entrepreneurship journey. One more thing, how can our audience stay in touch with you?
Yeah. I mean, you can go and visit our website, burnpitbbq.com. We're also on Facebook, Burn Pit BBQ. Otherwise, you can follow us on Instagram, Burn Pit BBQ guys. We're on there, so check us out. We got recipes, we got photos, we got some apparel and gear. Um, you know, really appreciate the support.
That's awesome, man. I got one final thing, man. So, what
Sure.
can I or our listeners do for you?
For me, man, I don't know, but the biggest thing, we love to support the business, sharing our message, sharing the word out there. If you know somebody that's getting into grilling or barbecuing, um, you know, would love to have you recommend us to them. But for you, man, keep doing what you're doing, bringing awareness to what other veterans are doing, sharing your story, sharing your fitness journey as well, and being a dad. So keep doing that, and keep fighting a good fight.
Awesome. Greg, again, thank you for being on, and thank you for your time. I appreciate the message that you brought to this episode, and best of luck. And like you said, just keep in touch and let me know how I can help.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure.
All right, brother.